All right, everybody, this is two EdTech guys take questions and share cool stuff. And if you don't ask enough questions, perhaps even dad jokes, be warned. So very good to have you. I hope you are excited about like a weekend coming up, because people in some places like, oh, it's every day's like the weekend. It's like, not for a lot of us, it's not. So at any rate, we're glad to have you here. And let's pass out a couple of thanks before we leap into some of these pieces right here. One of the thanks, of course, goes to my partner in rhyme on this one. That's Richard Byrne of Free Tech for Teachers. If you haven't spent time on his site, you are missing out. There are all kinds of great pieces of advice there for those of us who are dealing with not just questions of like, how do we find cool stuff for kids, but how do we find cool stuff for kids right now, right? So make sure you spend some time on that site. Richard, get that link in the chat for all of these good people as well.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Sorry. That would be good. We're also going to send a couple of shout outs to a couple of school districts that are working to have their people learn from the different things we're doing and share questions as they go. Fowler Unified in California. Good to have you and your team here. All the work that Susan Stewart does to make life better there is something we certainly appreciate. And all of the folks up in Jerome, Idaho, the group that I work with there. Shout out to Janet Avery and to Nate and Sean and Eva and their teaching teams there, and all of the good things that are happening for their kids. So we're very happy to meet you. If you have not met us before, and let's just say, for example, that you're here because you lost a bet and somebody said, okay, go to this link, then you need to know who we are. And we'll start with Richard.
Hi, I'm Richard. I have two little girls who are inside, hopefully taking a nap right now. And I am best known for freetechforteachers.com and practicaledtech.com. And in a prior life, I taught high school social studies for the better part of a decade, took a break to work with schools all over the world, and this year I'm teaching high school computer science.
Very cool. My name is Rushton. My wife and I have two feline daughters, and one of them over there. I thought I'd get like two different kind of experiences with Lola. Lola, has like that very dignified thing on the left, but often, I'm trying to like get some work done during our situation, and I get something a little bit more like what happens on the right. But without a doubt, being able to sit down on the couch for at least a couple of minutes a day and have her plop in the lap and purr is just like one of the better things in life. I would say that. All righty. So hopefully this is not you at the moment as you think about, kind of possibilities for how to work with the rest of the year. But just in case, this might be the idea that saves you a boatload of money. So there you go. Now, my name is Rushton, and I run a little shindig called Next Vista for Learning. Nextvista.org is a library of videos by and for teachers and students everywhere. Free to use, free to contribute to, free to download from, all for a student audience, all screen content. My own little attempt to save the universe from ignorance, one creative video at a time. Thank you very much. All right, and we hope that you'll take a look, all right, because we've got well over 2,500 videos on the site covering, kind of creative ways of thinking about things you learn in school or communities around the world or service to others. We got a cool para contest going on those topics right now. We've got videos for English language learners, and we've got videos about careers. If you're interested in any of this, just let me know. We will make sure that you get the slides and the links and all of this stuff so that you can give that a good look as well. Now, why are we doing what we're doing? We're doing this because keeping the learning going matters, right? The goal at this point is to get kids to be able to focus on possibilities for themselves going forward, not to simply worry amidst the deluge of frightening news that we're getting, quite rightly, I mean, given the situation we're facing. But if we can get kids focused on their possibilities for learning, we think we're gonna all be in a better place once we get past this. I don't think that's a particularly profound thought, right? But how you go about it may mean that you're having to explore things at a level you haven't before. So we've got a few things to share, and we'll start answering questions for you as well. So let's start some sharing going. That'll be the first thing we do, and then we're just going to take questions. So if you got questions, ask them in the chat. Some folks have sent stuff ahead of time. That's great. We'll work with those as well. But we're excited to just hopefully give you some ideas going into your breather if you have one for the next couple of days. Richard, talk to us about this one right here. You are muted. No longer.
That it helps if I click the microphone icon.
Man.
Yeah. So this is a fun new name spinner, name picker. It's called wheelofnames.com. And I learned about it from Tony Vincent, who has an awesome website himself, learninginhand.com. Tony and I have actually done some workshops together in the past and had a great time doing it. There's lots of name pickers on the internet. One of the things I like about this is you can save in your account multiple name pickers, and you don't even have to use names. You can upload pictures. You can do a batch of pictures that you upload, and it will randomly pick a picture. So the way that I thought about this was, besides just picking names, I could use it as story prompts, where we're going to spin the wheel and a picture of a cat comes up and you got to write about a cat. Or we spin the wheel and a picture of a bowl of spaghetti comes up and you got to write about your favorite fish song, or whatever you want to do. And because you can have multiple of them in your account, you could even use it as a little bit of a Mad Libs type of thing. And you have a spinner for verbs and a spinner for nouns and a spinner for adjectives, and you spit out a story. So that's wheelofnames.com. Really cool little site.
I took a good look at that one, after you let me know this was going to be the one, and was amazed to find that you could have a list of 200 names for that, right? And you can even have more, but only like 200 will be randomly selected to appear on the wheel. I'm trying to imagine one of these wheels with 200 names on it, but regardless, pretty cool stuff. So some of you might be like, hey, that would allow us to kind of draw names from across the entire senior class for some prizes. Indeed it would. Great share, Richard. All right, for me, I got a couple. One is the realization that a lot of teachers have hit, that kids are having trouble telling us maybe kind of what their issues are right now. What is it that you're dealing with as you try to get your schoolwork done, because some kids are having a lot of trouble getting work done right now. Of course, that's not different from usual, of course, but nevertheless, it's out there. And Tori Trust of the ISTE Teacher Education Network shared a form that she had put together, just called a Checkin Survey, right? And it starts actually with a bunch of little kind of GIF files for Baby Yoda, which is not bad. Just Baby Yoda, not bad. But if you can get to this, what you're going to find, and let me get you that link real quick for this guy right here. This one is one. Where do I go to the chat? This is one where, I'll get this in the chat, where when you click on it, it forces you to do a copy of this particular form. And so you'll then have that in Google Drive to be able to use, and which is still awfully nice stuff, right? And so kudos to Tori for getting that out. For getting that out there. But the question that I have, like in the panel at the moment, that's the one that really kind of gives you a sense of where kids might be having trouble saying what it is they're dealing with, but you may need to know, right? So look at these kinds of things, talk in your networks about different kinds of questions that can be useful for helping kids talk about what they're dealing with, and make sure you are in plenty of touch with your team at your school about how to deal with some of these non-academic issues that kids are facing. On the right, this is actually nothing new, but it's just one of my favorites, and I thought I'd share it because it has a load of good applications for online stuff. This is Book Creator for Chrome. So Book Creator for Chrome, obviously from the sound of it, is going to work just fine with Chromebooks. And it allows you to create these pages. The pages can be horizontal, landscape, like you see in the screenshot that I've got there. They can be square, vertical. You can do these in comic form, which kids kind of go ape poop over, just saying. Right? And you can put in it all sorts of images and text, and also record audio pieces in it. So, for example, you see I enlarged the little audio bit that's on that particular page, but you can record video into it, so kids can be doing reflections. There are some great projects out there where kids are doing things like writing stories and reading their own stories, which is really, really cool. So a lot of good things coming from Book Creator for Chrome. We'll get all of these guys in there as we go as well. So this particular page that we will also get, Richard, if you would get that bad boy in the chat right there, you'll find that the stuff that we're talking about with the shares before we get into the questions, we've got those available to you with descriptions and some screenshots and links on this particular resource page. What we want is for you to be able to get to anything that we talk about as easily as possible. When we post the recording of this webinar, you'll be able to get to this, you'll be able to get to our slides, you'll be able to get to links we share in the chat, this kind of stuff. So by all means, take advantage of the link that we just added in there. And Peggy added a link to ToryTrust.com as well. But by the way, big shout out to Peggy George in Arizona. She is a rock star of long time contributions to the EdTech community. And Peggy, we love you. All right, so 2 EdTech guys take questions. 2 EdTech guys, turns out we got them. I'm one of them, Richard's the other. And we will start working with some of your questions. So let's start working with some of these. So Richard, get us going on the questions.
All right, let's start with, I got a whole batch of them, a whole bunch of them. Let's start with one that we talked about just before we went live, and some of you may have already heard us talking about it. But I've gotten a lot of questions along these lines in the last week. This one is, the microphone on my school-issued laptop will not work. I've tried everything I can think of, but wondered if you might have some ideas. And I've gotten this a lot from it could be a Windows computer, a Mac computer, a Chromebook computer. Usually it's Windows and Chrome people asking me these things and not so much Mac people. But, if you've done the usual suspect things of restarting the computer, turning it off, turning it back on again, and you check the control panel on your Windows computer to make sure you have granted access to your microphone or granted access to your webcam or whatever piece it is, then it's time to check with your IT department and see if they put restrictions on your device that disable your microphone or disable your webcam, because some schools do that. Particularly elementary schools have done that to protect student privacy, so that students aren't accidentally broadcasting themselves to various places on the internet. So check with your IT department. And on a similar note, if you come across a website that is not working the way you think it should, my favorite website to check that is Down for Everyone or Just Me. And you can type in whatever website address you want, and it'll tell you if it's just you or if it's everyone else who's having problems with that site. The last little thing I'll say about that, third little thing I'll say, always check your browser for pop-ups. A lot of sites will have like a pop-up for a login or a pop-up for a little feature. And if your browser is blocking pop-ups, you might have to enable those. So
great advice.
That's the first question that we had.
Yeah, Richard, if you would get the link in the chat to the Is It Just Me business right there. I'll bring up a question that was tossed in by Jen in the chat. Required to remotely teach IT to first and second grade students with limited or no tech. Any ideas? Well, if you're teaching driver's education and there's no car, obviously that's kind of tough. On the other hand, a lot of the things that are important with regard to like IT in any form are conceptual. How do you think about programming, things? You can actually have kids learn some really basic programs by just like putting this stuff on paper. They can begin to understand that the syntax matters. You can draw attention to things like, if you sent somebody an email and you misspelled their name in the email, or more to the point, you misspelled their address, would it get to them? And they may actually figure out no, right? If you wanted to watch a TV show and you went to the wrong channel, would you be able to watch it? No. All right, and so trying to get them into the concepts of some of these pieces are really, really good, and often the things we don't spend enough time looking at to get them prepared so that when they do have access to something, they'll be able to do well with it. I think one of the important things that we need to be thinking about as we do what we do is that we are trying to teach them whatever we can with whatever we have right now. We are also trying to prep them for the circumstances once things begin to get better. So whatever we can do to like move the bar in the right direction, we're probably making some kind of progress. He said redundantly.
I'll add to that, Rushton. Next Vista for Learning, nextvista.org, has some videos that could be helpful. I just put a link into one of my favorite ones for elementary school kids to learn about email. It's Captain Communicator. How to email your teacher with Captain Communicator. I absolutely love that video. I've shown it hundreds of times all over the place. It's a cute little video.
Very, very cool. I mean, like in our video library, and if you want to stick the nextvista.org link in there real quick, that'd be great. We get all kinds of videos, right? So we get videos on, like, here's an example of how to do, multiplying, fractions. But we also get some pretty quirky pieces that are pretty amazing, right? And getting kids to be creative about how they talk about things. So emailing your teacher, with Captain Communicator, that's cool stuff. We had a kid talk to us about, or like create a video about multiplying positives and negatives, and talking about how good things happen to bad people, and that's a bad thing, so that's a negative. And he drew a lot of kind of cool parallels that way. We love seeing those kinds of creative approaches to the stuff you learn in school.
All right, cool. Let's tackle another question, shall we? All right. So this one comes from one of my pet topics, near and dear to my heart, and that's copyright. Ready? So as we're all delving into this online teaching world, I've had many teachers ask about copyrighted materials. One specific question came from a 4th grade teacher who's looking for an author's purpose graphic to persuade, inform, and entertain to use in her lesson plans. I've shown her how to use image filters in Google, but unfortunately there aren't many graphics labeled for reuse. So my question is, where can teachers find good graphics to use in their teaching that would not violate copyright laws? Most of the image sites that I have found are simply images. And I wrote back, actually, and I said, this is one of those times where things like Pixabay and Unsplash, they kind of fall short, because that is mostly people taking their pictures of cats and mice and things like that and putting them online. Sometimes cats and mice together. So this was one of those times where I said, doing a quick remote tutorial for a teacher on how to use a service like Canva or Storyboard That or Pixton, all 3 of those offer templates that you could follow to quickly make kind of a flow chart or an infographic of your own. They've got templates you could copy and modify, and you wouldn't be violating anyone's copyright, because you'd be creating it from scratch yourself, just using someone else's template, but using your own words and graphics. So.
And you're pointing to something that a lot of people don't think about. I mean, I find people, thinking, well, I really need this picture of this, and they're searching all over Unsplash and Pexels and Creative Commons search, and that's a righteous thing to do. But sometimes just take the picture yourself, right? Like there's probably something that you can do that's kind of close to it. That's fine. Sometimes when what you need is some kind of a chart, make the chart, right? Just like draw it up, take a picture, and people are good with that. Let's jump to another question that's in the chat. All right.
To that end, Google Photos. If you don't know, Google Photos, in your own images, you can search for keywords for things you haven't even added.
Yes.
Like if you need a picture of snow, do it just a search for snow in your personal archive, and you'll find things. Or fun one I did the other day, I did a search for selfies. I was looking for a picture of myself. So I just searched for selfies, and I came up, as did Kevin Honeycutt, in my search results. So
who's a good guy?
Who's a good guy, but we look nothing alike.
And on the kind of scary Orwellian front, I can put my cat's name in, and we'll get like pictures of the right cat. Just saying. Anyway, so Susan Barton tossed a really good question. We've been encouraged to connect with our students, but are also encouraged to do it in an asynchronized way. First of all, style points for asynchronized. I would say that for a lot of teachers, there is this worry. It's like, if I'm connecting with them, and I see something, and do I have to report it? And the answer is probably yes, right? And so you're really kind of working with 2 things. One is, if there's something to be seen and needs to be reported, then it needs to be reported, right? So you're seeing it. It may be difficult to do, but what's the alternative? Like not, reporting it. So do know that while this is a difficult situation, I mean, your kids are under a lot of stress anyway, and if there's something that leads you to be like, I'm worried about this kid, act on that. Now, more to the question about asynchronous use of these things, it is important for kids to see us, right? They need to know that we're still out there, we still believe in them and their possibilities and their learning, and they can actually handle these things. You know, that kind of encouragement is big. We do it all the time, you know, in face-to-face, and we need to do it all the more so now in online instruction. So if what you're doing is creating an encouraging message using something like Screencastify or Screencast-O-Matic or QuickTime on a Mac, you know, just a little screencast thing where you get your face in there, you're talking about something, you know, you make a little joke with them, something along those lines, just something that gives them some sense of like, okay, these people are in my life who are kind of normal and stable or okay. That's working at either, you know, like conscious or unconscious levels for almost all our students, right? So please keep in mind that there are ways to keep that encouragement going. And when I think of that piece of a district saying, you know, we want you to do these things, connect with the kids, that's really, I would say, the issue in play. Richard?
Yeah, so I'll speak from what I'm doing in my school right now, because I was actually doing it just before we started the webinar. One of the things that I have to do is call everyone who's in my homeroom once a week. So either call the student directly, I'm a high school student, so either call them directly or call the parent directly, and either, you know, half of them I just end up talking to their voicemail and then I follow up with an email. So I'm doing that. But the rest of the week, Monday through Thursday, which are the only days that we have to have lessons ready for the kids, I'm doing a combination of, we're doing live Google Hangouts, but I also do a video update every morning that includes just, hey, here's what's going on, you know, and I keep it light. You know, it's not a heavy-handed do your homework sort of thing. It's you know, it's light. I put in a joke from my 101 Dad Jokes book, something like that, and you know, I just ask kids to reply, like, did you get the joke? Or what's the punchline of the joke? Just doing that has been helpful for me and my students, I think, just to keep that connection going. Even if it's not, you know, even if they're not doing the work that they're maybe supposed to be doing, at least we're having that, we can still have that connection, right? So they're replying to that video with, hey, you know, your jokes are terrible, Mr. Byrne, but I got it, you know, that sort of thing.
And, you know, even ask them to you know, let's say that you've got them in a Google Meet or, you know, a Zoom or anything like these, to just toss out a thing and say, all right, guys, on a 1 to 10, give me the honest response. How good was that joke? And you see a bunch of like 2s and 3s, and you're like, you guys are still kind. It's all good. Those are good moments. Those really are good moments for the kids, without a doubt. So I said we got time for probably another question. Richard, what do you think? Is there one that kind of leaps out to you for
yeah. We had mentioned one of these before, and let's. I'm sorry, I've lost track of where it is in my list of things. Okay, so this question came from Chrissy, but other people asked similar questions regarding privacy.
Okay.
Can you use Google Meets to schedule individual office hours with students? We've had some problems with Zoom and are not allowed to use it. I wonder if other districts are being told not to use Zoom also. So there's a question. And then I had a similar question regarding settings in Zoom and privacy settings in Zoom. So to address Chrissy's question, the thing about Google Meets is that you'd have to set a different link for every one of those appointment slots. I did a video, she was responding to a video I did earlier in the week about making appointment slots in Google Calendar, where if you use Zoom, you have your personal meeting ID, and you can just drop that into your message to everyone, and they just click it at their scheduled time with you. Whereas with Google Hangouts, you don't have that personal meeting ID. Every meeting's got a different link, right? So you have to set a different link for every meeting. So
yeah, call up the link to that particular post. Let's get that in the chat. While you're doing that, these issues that we're seeing news stories about these things, you know, because there's a term, Zoom bombing, right? These are people like leaping into your Zoom and tossing all sorts of nasty stuff in there, right? Remember how you get to that point. No one's going to do that if they don't have the link. How do people get the link to your Zoom meetings? if you have provided to your students and that's not out on a public page where, you know, some bot might find it or something like that, and especially if the kids, you know not to pass this around, the chances of this happening are really, really slim. Now that may be a limited sense of the technical possibilities, right, that may be out there for dishonorable people. But I would also say that for a lot of the tech companies, they've been looking at some of these issues and saying, okay, now that our tools are being used to the degree that they are, this becomes this huge priority for us to fix. And they're fixing these things quite quickly. I've actually heard of districts that are like, don't use Meet, use Zoom, in part because with Zoom, you've got kind of more control over how you limit people's ability to jump in. You can make sure that everybody shows up muted in a regular meeting. You know, you can keep everybody muted, which is a fairly good thing as well. You know, there's just a lot of different ways to work with the technology. And so, you know, you see a story that's like, you know, Zoom privacy. It's like, we're dealing with a load of issues on all fronts with this. And the questions come back to, are we meeting the needs of our students? Are they getting the encouragement they need to do this difficult thing that they're doing? So I would say that is kind of the bottom line with this. I mean, yes, there are difficult questions that your district has to work with, but the key thing is that we're looking out for the well-being of our students however we can.
Yeah, and I'll add in just something that we kind of sent out to my whole school district regarding either Zoom or Google Hangouts, or if some people are using WebEx, whatever you use to do those remote meetings with your students, just remind them that you're still a teacher and you're still a mandated reporter. So if they do something on the conference call with their video on that's illegal or it looks like it's self-harming, we have to report it. So, you know, just remind kids of those sorts of things, that yes, it's still school and you're still a teacher. And we were also reminded, you know, don't videotape everything, or you know, don't record without students' permission, and likewise remind students not to record or screen capture things without everyone's permission as well. So
absolutely. Yeah. And remember also that with tech stuff, right, you know, especially under our current circumstances, if you're seeing a report that was written, say, a week ago, that might be really old at this point, right? You know, look for updated information constantly on this. So let's wind things down. Just a reminder, and you've certainly heard this in our recent answers, that what we're doing right now, our job is to care for these students, to care for their learning. And to do that well, we need to care for ourselves. There are a lot of stressed teachers out there right now, and you need to be following some good advice for yourself. You're getting enough sleep, right? You're getting some exercise. You're getting away from the screen. All of this stuff is really important. I'll be putting some more links into the chat. I want you to sign up for my newsletter. This allows me to get all kinds of different things out to you, free things that might be interesting to you, things you might want to read, things you might want to watch, contest that my little nonprofit does. I would love for you to do that, and you can win Starbucks cards, just saying. I also blog at rushtonh.com, rushtonh.com, and I would love to get your thoughts on stuff that I post there. I've written some books, how to be a better teacher, how to make your school a better place for everybody. I hope that these are things you'll take a look at. If you do a book study with them and you want me to connect with you, just say, hey, you said you would. I will. I'm happy to do it. What's the cost? It's free. You're so nice. Happy to help. So the idea there is just to kind of be in a space of like, we all need to like share ideas at this point. That's why Richard and I do this particular cast. My newest book came out in December. It's for school leaders, called Technology, Teamwork, and Excellence, put out by NCEA, and would love to get some people kind of sharing their ideas on that. I'm always interested in learning how to improve the kinds of things that I put out there. Richard.
Yeah, so sorry, I was reading Peg's question there about recording Zoom, and kids will think that they're on better behavior. That hasn't been my experience, and I'm not going to go down that road. My kids behave the same way, whether they're recorded or not. So I don't know what that says about me or my students, but they act the same way. So if you want to know more about what I do, or you want to subscribe to my newsletter, you can do that at practicaledtech.com. I also have a free handbook. It's a 56-ish page PDF. All resources for the 1920 school year. Embedded in there are lots of tutorials. And on the next screen, there it is. On the next screen, I have a YouTube channel where I do tons of tutorials about all kinds of things. You can find that at bit.ly.com/rmbyrne or rmbyoutube, or just send me an email or tweet at me. So that's where you can find me. And normally I would say I'll be speaking at X conference coming up, but there are no X conferences coming up because they've all been postponed or canceled or rescheduled for next year. There's that.
These things will come back. This too shall pass. A couple other links just tossed in as well. I put in my April newsletter, which just came out 2 days ago, hot off the press, as well as a link to the writing stuff that I do. So if you're interested in that, feel free to give it a look. My name is Rushton Hurley. I am a former Japanese language teacher, a former principal of a K-12 school, a former principal of an online high school, and now I run my little nonprofit. And it is great to be able to share all sorts of ideas with you. I hope that as you go through your weekend, you're starting to kind of get re-energized to try some different things and let your kids know, hey, this is something we're trying. Let me know what you think. And getting that kind of feedback from them may allow you to get better faster than anything else. Richard, any final thoughts from you?
Final thoughts. Take care of yourself. Enjoy the weekend. Step away from the phone or whatever device you're hooked to. Put it on airplane mode for a couple hours and, just chill out with your cats, your kids, your dog, or whomever.
And my last piece of advice. Oh yeah, that's good. Wash your hands. And my last piece of advice would be, sign up for next week's webinars. We will have the ones that I do with Susan Stewart on Wednesday and the one that I do with Richard next Friday as well. And we would love to have you back. Thanks again for joining us. I'm going to stop the recording, but all of you who have gone to the trouble of actually joining us in person, we'll just keep answering some questions as long as we can. So everybody take care. Good to see you.